Let's talk about it then. Let's talk about careers in growth marketing. You want to kick us off, Maja? This was your idea.
Awesome, will do. So, Eazl community, wonderful to be back. And today, Davis and I will actually discuss something that is of high interest to you, according to the LinkedIn messages that we are getting. So, a bunch of people are asking us how to kick off the career in growth, because as we know, there aren't that many growth marketer, growth hacker job posts around yet. Yet is an important emphasis here. So, you gotta hack your way into the system. So that's the purpose of our discussion today. And Davis has a bunch of experience with LinkedIn, with CVs, with just like making sure to land your dream job. So I believe that we are going to take you for a magical spin here.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think the first thing that I wanted to chat about with you is about the desire that I think both of us have seen for people to make the first step starting your own growth agency. And I guess I'll talk about this for 1 second. So I work with a lot of people in colleges and MBA programs about their first jobs. And I feel like there's a certain personality that says, look, I'm skilled, I'm ambitious, I want to start my own business. And I totally get that because I am that person. But I actually got a job at a company as my first job after I did an MBA, and it was for sure a good move. It's what enabled me to start Eazl. So I don't know, do you have any thoughts about that kind of, maybe being patient, Maja, and not going for starting your own growth agency to begin with?
Well, I believe we have like a beautiful mix of perspective here. So I come from more conservative European environment when you have to be 5 years into a job in order to be taken serious somewhere. And you come from more this entrepreneurial, like just do it style that is more prone on the United States. But hey, the entire system is collapsed when it comes to digital, because just this gap of skill set and things that people can do, this is pure meritocracy. So whenever you can prove that you can get the job done, you are good to go. And that's the most important lessons for me. Just find a project, find a friend, find a family member, and prove that you got what it takes. Don't just like go out there and say, hey, I taken gazillion courses, because I'm like spitting in my own bowl here a little bit, but education can be a rabbit hole. So you sort of got this notion that you never know as much as you should. And that's kind of a normal phenomenon. But two things that you apply in practice are much better than hundreds of hours of courses that you will attend. So my bottom line idea here is just get something done, prove that you got the skill, prove that you got whatever it takes. With the agency, I'm sort of on this side of the coast that it's better to be independent, at least in the beginning, to show that you can like generate some cash flow, and after you have whatever number, you can like confidently say that business is taking off, that you have some reserve, you are able to develop relationships with people, but not before you kind of prove that model yourself. And that's maybe just me, I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you think that it might be so like, let's just take the case of one of our potential students. So one of our students takes Eazl's growth hacking course, maybe takes your boot camp in person, and then they're like, all right, I got these skills, I know how this stuff works. If they can deliver results on something, you think that it could be a good first step to get a client versus going to try to get a job with a company?
Well, that would be kind of based on an assumption that they have already been in the system before. So we are not talking about like 18-year-olds here, but for maybe people who are like on the edge of careers and maybe have been doing marketing before, design work, technology work, so that they kind of got this skill set proven on their CV already. I definitely wouldn't recommend that the first thing out of college is that somebody is starting to build a growth agency, because that's really, really, really hard. And I tell you immediately why it is hard, because expectations are inflated. Like, the field is called growth hacking. Clients expect growth. Clients don't have an understanding that growth is a process that will take you places. They want green numbers. And that's like psychologically incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
That's why what you said makes more sense, to first like be, how to say this, entrepreneur. So
Yeah.
person who's like acting entrepreneurial and is applying growth set within one company, and hey, in 6 months you can build a beautiful case for yourself.
Yeah, I think that we call that in the course a pocket of success. So I think that's also a good place to start too. So if you're watching this and you're, let's say you're looking for your first job, you want to be a growth marketer, your early career. I think Maja and I both agree that, if this sounds good to you, you should go join a good company, hopefully a company that is technologically aggressive, a company that likes adopting new tools, and then go and create a pocket of success. Like, you could be whatever, maybe you're marketing one product, one service line, one region. Just do some things that you can say, I tried this is what happened, and you can take that to your next position. Yeah, and actually, all right, cool. So let's move on to the next topic, which is skill sets. So Maja, maybe you can, maybe let's kick this over to you. What skill sets are you seeing out there as a need in terms of starting your career in growth?
Okay, so I found this wonderful chart, which is called Team Marketer by Buffer. And let me just screen share real quick. So I'll do what exactly? Yeah, I'll screen share. That's it. Cool. So I have this chart here, and as you see, this is like a little bit overwhelming, isn't it? So here it says something about technology, about UX, about
analytics. Can you zoom in on that a little bit, Maja? On the
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. Yeah. So we have it, right? Cool. And I really like this chart because it's presenting the depth of the knowledge that you could have in one area. To find a person who would be 100% fluent in everything, that must be a unicorn. So for the rest of us, for the mortals, we usually focus on one of the three core pillars, which are analytics, design, or marketing per se. I do know developers who are very good in growth, but that's kind of a skill set that needs longer to develop. So the easiest and the most lucrative thing here to start would be data and analytics. Why I didn't say storytelling and copywriting is because, at least here in Europe, data and analytics is so much better paid, and it moves like a faster career trajectory. This is my personal opinion on it, but I have known people who have been rocking conversion rate optimization, Facebook ads, and did the same. So whatever small part of this chart that you can fill in and just become an absolute ninja in is incredible. Plus, make sure that you know your data.
Cool. All right. Yeah, this is a great chart, Maja. I love that. I also really like this idea that you presented, and I think this is important for you watching to just reiterate for Maja, which is that, it's impossible to say, I'm a master at all these things. And actually, in terms of interacting with especially a client or a project, if you're doing any freelancing, or maybe if you're like the only marketer at a company, I know, for example, that I have a close friend who was the chief marketing officer for a small team. They were like 20 people, and she was the only marketer. And in that situation, a lot of times I find that the organization or the team will put the pressure on you to do everything. And I think it's important to manage those expectations and say, hey, listen, Maja's chart shows, data and analytics and storytelling and copywriting and user experience and basic coding. And it's just, I can't do all that. You need to buy some of that. You need to let your client or your boss kind of know, just set the expectations a little bit correctly.
And that's a very important point that you just make, because what you need to have is this match, this fit between an area that is most important for an organization, and let's say a person who's like head of that department or is doing the job. If that is like a good fit, you will have an amazing time, everybody will be happy, and you can just go out on the market and outsource everything else that you don't need. So absolutely no fear to be overwhelmed. Everything can be learned or outsourced. But where we do have a problem is if there isn't such a fit between your core competencies and what job actually required. In these cases, close yourself in a room, do all the courses you can find, and eventually you'll get there. Plus, talk to people who are good at this job because they have probably tackled it before.
Yeah, so one way that I think you can do that practically for you watching is if you look at a job description, you'll see that they'll say like required skills or something like that, usually right at the top. And the ones that are at the top are usually the highest priority skills for the employer. So that's a good way to distinguish between, you'll see a lot of jobs that are just marketer, and then you can see that oftentimes they're very different roles. Pay attention to those top skills because, you know, a marketer job that's primarily analytics, that's primarily advertising, you know, something different. So let's actually, speaking of job descriptions, that's the third thing we were going to talk about, Maja, is what might be some good entry-level points for somebody to enter an organization.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a Southern European, so I got to tell an anecdote here.
Okay.
David, this year you had this spectacular idea that we actually update the growth hacking course based on job description that we found online. So there, we are not following any theory, any methodologies. We are being completely market driven here, which I think it's a beautiful idea, and I cannot wait to collaborate with you on that one. This was such a gem.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, because they're telling you what they need. I appreciate that, Maja. So
Sure.
We had talked about this a little bit, though, what your first position might be. And it seemed to me that what you had told me is, I think you mentioned this a bit earlier in the conversation, but you would look for data analysis roles or working with data roles as your first job.
Especially in international space, because for the 90% of us who are not English native, you will have a better opportunity landing something that is like working with data more directly than just like showing somebody that you are language proficient, which you are like in probably 80%, not that much. So that's a much better starting point for international career. Plus, as I said before, it's a faster mover career trajectory in my experience. Doesn't take a genius, you just have to be solid.
Yeah, and I can contribute a little bit here. I know that, this is going to kind of maybe blow your mind. It blew my mind, but I think it's related to what Maja's talking about here with data. So Upwork just released the 20 most in-demand skill sets that the people hiring on Upwork are looking for. So this is for freelancers, but it shows you something about the market. The crazy thing is, all 20 of the skills that were demanded in this quarter were not present on the previous quarter. They're all new, and they're all technology. It's like usually like Python is a really big one that's related to data. Things related to like machine learning. I think that data will take you in that area, and I think I agree with Maja that that's a great area to be in, at least to have your background in.
And also if you are starting your own business, because the majority of companies that I personally work with, like 9 out of 10 will have their Google Analytics set up not optimally, we will say, right? So sometimes it can happen that you have 30% difference in conversion rate between Google Analytics and just like your e-commerce system. The other times you can find like these amazing traffic spikes that you have absolutely no idea where they are coming from. So there are some attacks on your website. And just to help people make sense of the data that they are already using is so important. And again, it doesn't take a genius to do that. I mean, I do that with my marketing education. You just have to make sure that what you're saying makes business sense and that everything is properly tracked. And this you can learn. Absolutely no problem.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would add to this like entry point conversation is just the difference between joining a bigger organization versus a smaller one. You know, like Maya's saying, if you're joining a bigger company, they're going to have lots of data to work with. And if you're joining a smaller one, oftentimes they don't. And that's a really big difference. So, yeah, I mean, just consider that. I mean, I think that probably if you're joining a smaller team and you're going to be expected to deliver growth, you're going to be doing very different activities than more like optimization activities of larger businesses. So anyway, I mean, I honestly think that the smaller companies is harder, but you get this really broad base of exposure to all those skills. You might have to write copy even though you don't speak English as a first language, which is a huge challenge. But anyway.
International English is a thing, and the majority of your customers are usually not native English speakers as well. So as long as you use Grammarly and have a good proofreader, you're good.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Maya. So let's kind of come full circle as we wrap here, which is...
I would just like to add here a little bit what you said about small companies. That really like resonated with me because this is like the reality of most of the work that we do here in Europe, because like a big company here, you won't believe it, is 500 employees. So for your standards, that's probably a little bit small. And what helps here incredibly well is soft research, stuff that we are teaching on a course as well, to do interviews, to send out survey to your customers, to just like take some usability testing. And these are steps that I go through with practically all my clients. And we have like gazillion ideas for experiment there. Whatever usability testing you do at the beginning, it should show you at least 50 new insights that you didn't know before. So that's probably, as funny as it sounds, the best allocation of your time that you can make in the beginning, to do qualitative research if you don't have enough data to play with.
So you're saying, okay, I like that. Yeah, you know, I think that without going off on too big of a tangent, I do think that the culture of marketing is shifting because there's so much marketing automation that I think that, you know, the product is king more and more, or queen. That, you know, that you making like product improvements is marketing, especially if they're driven by user demands. As long as you can communicate with those users and tell them that you're making the product better. So I like that idea, Maya, that you know, you could go in and do usability testing, do surveys, and then deliver something right away. That's another good thing, is that if you promise your employer or whoever's hired you that you can deliver growth, that's going to take a while. You're not going to be able to show them that for a couple months.
At least 3 months.
At least 3 months. Whereas if you can promise them that I'm going to help you make improvements right away, and then they should lead to growth, that's something that you can probably deliver on a little bit better.
Absolutely. And you should do that like for your own backlog as well, because this is like the gold mine of all the insights that you will have. And Jeff Bezos is talking about being customer obsessed, not customer centric, but customer obsessed. So if AI won't be doing that job for you, you should just like take some people to a coffee shop and make them scroll this website on their mobile phone, because this is where people are. They are not like on a very reliable Wi-Fi. They are on their mobile devices, and whatever you can like find there, it's such an incredible improvement that you can make. So I was not saying that this is like a part of analytical skills per se, but this is what happens in reality when you don't have data.
That's interesting, Maya. So I think that one of the themes that's emerged from this conversation is that even as a growth hacker, by being human centric and customer obsessed, that's kind of the best thing that you might be able to do.
Absolutely. And just like I'm sharing this on Facebook group, Eazl, like the marketing Facebook group that we have, like user generated content and how to use influencers in your micro and nano influencers, that is, in your advertising campaign. Because like the whole business became so much more human focused, and not only with this generational shift, but here I'll tell you like a very funny example. We were working with a business from Belgium once, and we somehow like generated a survey and had no idea what will come up with it. So we haven't didn't have any clear expectations of what the outcomes would be, but what people entered as answers on open-ended questions ended up to be so good that we were just doing like frequency analysis of text and then used most commonly used words in ads as well as emails, and that converted like crazy. It beat the best copywriter in the company because we were finally somehow able to speak our clients' language and describe the product as they do. So these are the stuff that you would never like originally anticipated, but once you have it, it's really a gold mine.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, honestly, if you're getting text from your users, or you're getting anything that creates engagement, that is setting you up really well for the future, because as I've been developing more technologies myself, what's happening in the technology world is that there's all these tools that are enabling you to mine that content from your users or the text for insights. What's their personality like? What's their disposition like? Finding patterns, all that kind of stuff that you can start to do programmatically, which is where a lot of the interesting parts of AI and machine learning are going. So talk to your devs about that. They can probably use that stuff a lot.
Absolutely. And we are not trying to be like Cambridge Analytica here. But that's the reality for businesses, you know, because when you see data, like it shows you what, but you don't understand how, like why did this happen? And this is like where qualitative research comes in. But that one is very hard to analyze, because if you have like 300 pages of transcripts of usability studies, that would take like a week to absorb. So these tools are very helpful in helping us interpret what users are saying to us and how we can build a better experience for them.
So Maja, to wrap, it's interesting because we started off this conversation talking about how you might have to hack your way into an organization, get started. And the last topic we were going to talk about, which is something that I think you have a lot of experience about, which is, I loved how you were talking about building leverage in your own organization. So maybe you can give people some tips on, once you're in the organization, how you kind of grow yourself into a recognized expert inside it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is like, I could go on this for hours, but I won't, because I know that we are time constrained. So that's exactly what happened in my case. And I was very blessed and very grateful to have Eazl as a community that backed me up from the beginning of my career. Ever since I've taken their course, they have been wonderful to me and supported me on each and every step of this journey. So I am very grateful for this. But what happened in reality was that at the certain point of time, I felt that like my college education marketing did no longer cut the requirements for the international campaign that we were rolling out. So I did acquire growth hacking knowledge, and I didn't like go next day to the job and say to the boss, hey, we are building a growth team. I was just like using it as a frame to build this campaign, to structure it as a funnel, to structure it as experiment, to make everything super measurable. And then I had a presentation once like a result was already delivered. And I was lucky to have this support of a technological companies, which you already said, David, are a little bit more abrasive to changes. But as soon as you rationally show to people that something works, that something is great for organization, that it saves money, that it delivers great results, that it makes people more excited about the job, like your boss would practically have to be an idiot to argue with you if you are coming there with a well-built structure. And you really have to show your face and your cases in communities as well. So Eazl community is definitely a wonderful community to start with. This is how I started. Then we have, when you are like a little bit stronger with your traction and growth studies, you can publish on growthhackers.com. You can connect with people on LinkedIn. I mean, case studies, whenever you have some numbers in the titles, this will open like crazy. And LinkedIn is such a wonderful platform that allows you to do just that. Like organic reaches there are crazy. So it shouldn't be difficult to just position your thoughts, to position your case study out there. And then you know how it goes. Content is queen, distribution is its garage. So you have to really post stuff where people are interested in that. So they can be like Facebook groups, they can be online forums, wherever your target audience is. And this is like in a nutshell how you literally build a name for yourself. Plus, you have to be a decent person, you know. It's not just like giving something to the world and expect that everybody will embrace it. You have to be helpful, you have to engage in comments, you have to discuss stuff. So just make sure that it is two-sided, because this is how you build synergies throughout your career, not just when you are launching.
So just to summarize there, I think you had some great points. I think you had specifically that you might create something that's doing well and then create a little presentation and then present that.
Study, whatever.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, create a presentation maybe and deliver that to your team, or maybe create a case study and distribute that around. And then you also had mentioned maybe like you could publish that on LinkedIn or publish it in other places where this kind of community is coalescing. I guess the only thing I have to add there is that I've noticed that communities are tending to develop around the use of particular technologies. So for example, if you use, like I use Google tools, there are all these communities out there for, Google apps for teachers or whatever. And those people are really interested in whatever is about that. So
it's a very good one. Sorry for interrupting but it's like an amazing platform to work on, because if you are using like an email provider or just like some ad optimization platform, those people will embrace your case study and they will play on their official resources. This is gold for them as well. So if you could like position yourself to find a partnership as such, that would be a gold mine. My friend Stella, who's in course as well, was just featured by MailerLite for being like one of the people who do the best designs on MailerLite. So they were featured as an example in their official newsletter. That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Yuri was featured on Facebook blog because he's doing like an amazing campaigns, and he was like one of the top one regional spenders. So whenever you can have a bigger platform to back you up, that's gold. That's really good.
Totally. So keep your eye on the course for updates. Maja and I are always trying to make it great for you, but I hope you have enjoyed this brain boost, and we'll put some extra links in the description of the video.
Yeah, absolutely, our pleasure. And just keep on interacting with us. You learn from us, we learn from you, and together we are really rocking this course for how many years in a row?
Gosh, I think 5-6 years.
That's amazing.
Pretty rad. Yeah.